Hi everybody. Brought to you this fine spring day, I'd like to welcome you back to Anna Reads. We'll be picking up with Chapter 5 today of Unmentionable, the Victorian Lady's Guide to Sex, Marriage, and Manners by Therese O'Neill. If you are just now joining us, like I said, Chapter 5. Luther's right here with me. He's not my cat. Now let me find Chapter 5. Oh, there's Orson Squire Fowler. No, we're past him. Here we are. Chapter 5, page 75. Diet. You're a little bag of pudding. Let us say that one of the many reasons you've sought this romantic century is because you are rather on the fleshy side, and you are tired of always being on the outs with modern fashion. Yes, we know you're a chunk. We know. Him chunky. He knows. You've found yourself in tears in dressing rooms, 6 pairs of jeans crumpled on the floor, each more hateful than the last. Your own mother once told you, patterned leggings are a privilege, not a right. You just know it's going to be different here. Examine the newest style of pannier or bustle designed to make a rump look big, and then throw back your head and laugh. Nature endowed you handsomely in posteriority. You used to rue her for this, but now, ho-ho! Tisk at the advertisements offering cures to fatten ladies up. Imagine needing a potion for such a thing. Bosom growing cream? No need. Your own fine flesh can fill out the generous girth of your corset's bust quite sufficiently. Where do you think you're going? He doesn't want to be touched today. Finally, your day has come, a time when men worship a woman of curves and flesh, where to be well-fed and sedentary is a mark of health and wealth. Finally, that is in fashion. Yes, my little dumpling, get all that rejoicing out of your system. Deep breath now, my girl. I'm sorry, it's not true. Fat isn't fashionable in this century. In fact, since beauty adheres to such a narrow standard during this time, it's probably more deplored than in the 21st. It's plumpness, dear one, a very specific, healthy, youthful plumpness that is adored here. No one wants to look heroin chic in this era. That much is correct. People here associate prominent cheekbones and flat chests with hunger, sickness, and of course, sin. Remember Mrs. A. Walker, writer of Female Beauty as Preserved and Improved by Regimen, Cleanliness, and Dress? She has firm opinions on this matter, naturally. I should probably tell you, though, that a Mr. Alexander Walker was also writing a lot about women's beauty around this time. They're either married or he's pretending to be a woman to sell more books. I think Klinger pulled the same thing on MASH at one point. Oh, now you're going to come over here. No, you're going to come over here. You're going to get cuddled. Yes, you are. Big baby. Says Mrs. Walker, block quote, a total want of roundness of form, a yellow skin, hollow and livid eyes, sunken cheeks, nose shrunk so as to be absolutely ridiculous, the mouth fallen in, the neck lengthened and showing all the subadjacent parts, are the effects of extreme thinness, with which, however great the regularity and beauty of the features may be, it is scarcely possible to be less than hideous. And how did she get that way? Either physical labor, excessive thinking, or vice. It doesn't matter which. You want nothing to do with women who dabble in any of those activities. Block quote. More frequently, however, it is owing to violent or long-continued exercise or labor, to bad choice of food, salt, spiced, or bitter, to unwholesome water, to indulgence in vinous or spirituous liquors, to hot and dry air, to excessive mental application, to violent or sorrowful passions, to abandonment to pleasures, protracted vigils, etc. All of this would seem to indicate that more ounce of bounce is desired, yes? No. A certain Helen Jameson, who, though she may be brutal, can never be accused of being patronizing, lays it out plain for us in her 1899 book, The Woman Beautiful. Block quote. It is far better to be the butt of jokes concerning walking shoestrings or perambulating umbrella cases than to waddle through life burdened to death with an excessive amount of flesh. The thin sister can pad out the angles, put frills and puffy things over the bony places, but alas for the fat one. Alas. Look at the art of the day. The women, though often more rounded than those in our 21st century magazines, are nonetheless perfect hourglasses. That is to say, opulent but lithe, perfectly proportioned in beauty and poise, long-legged and small-waisted. You know, genetic freaks. I'm so sorry. I wanted it to be true, too. But the fact is, even a firm stoutness is considered maternal and fusty. You must pursue nearly the same standard of beauty that plagued you in your own century. Diversity and deviation from the norm are not celebrated. They're not even tolerated. Your imperfect figure is just one more way you're disappointing yourself, your community, and your God. Page 79, heading, You're a little bag of pudding and you aren't fooling anyone. But surely the styles of the era must help a bit in disguising your unwanted jiggles and flapovers. I mean, it is no longer imperative that your blue jeans display a bottom the bitty size and shape of 2 genetically modified ripe blueberries. You no longer risk having a $40 designer white t-shirt become nothing but an expensive sausage casing when it fuses to your back fat for all the world to see. All your bits and bumps are hidden beneath your corset and your enormous skirt, right? Cat hair. Up to a point, yes. But here comes Helen Jameson again with that crushing honesty. Alas for the fat one. She gets into clothes that are skin tight. She draws in her corset string until it snaps and gives at every breath and sneeze, and even then she does not look graceful and pretty, for the fat, like secrets, will out, and it rolls over and around like the little bumps and humps in a pudding bag. And there it is. Mrs. Jameson offers a reduction, a regimen for reduction. To lose fat, get out of bed, open the window, and breathe the cold air. Cold is a good soldier in the war of waddle. Get out of my book, bug. Speaking of which, now take marching steps, hands on hips, across your bedroom. Then we must chafe and sting your flab so as to make sure it knows it is not welcome here. Block quote. After airing your lungs, close the window and run into the bathroom, where you should have a quick sponge bath, rubbing the body briskly with a heavy towel. A quick alcohol rub can follow. Her diet requirements are sensible, mostly. No sugars or creams, fair enough. Also never eat bread. Only toast. Up, up, up. They are different. Toast is dried out, which is necessary to the girl trying to lighten up because water is a very heavy substance. It's simple logic. Jameson warns against overhydrating. Do not drink much water. A little lemon juice added to it will make it less fattening. Unless, of course, you get your water from a contaminated well. As we have seen, cholera can induce amazing weight loss. Side note, if you are intermittent fasting, do not cut water. Do not. Dehydration is no joke. Those IVs are no fun. It sucks. Do not cut water, even if you are fasting. And if you are obese, for heaven's sake, don't make a further spectacle of yourself by trying to imitate the normals. Martha Louise Rain, who wrote Gems of Deportment and Hints of Etiquette, 1881, explains, block quote, ladies who are very stout make objects of themselves by tight lacing, which reddens the face and distorts the figure. If they would wear loose clothes, accustom themselves to breathe softly instead of panting, walk with dignity instead of rolling or waddling, and be unobtrusive in the colors they wear, half the unpleasantness of too much fat would be avoided. There is no need to wear fashionable colors or clothing for you, my chubby little cherub. Here, I think we have some old bed sheets. Dye them black with the ashes of your self-respect and sew them together. Then cut a tidy head hole, and voila! You've performed a common courtesy to all who might have been blighted by the sight of you. Page 81, heading, Poisoned people seldom overeat. Now that you've discovered there is only so much a corset's steel boning can suppress, you might begin to consider weight loss, 19th century style. Surely it must be easier than it was in the 21st century for 1,000 reasons. No television or computers to keep you inside all day. If you want a cookie, you have to make them, or get up, ring a bell, sit back down, tell the maid to tell the cook to make them, and then wait an hour, by which time your peckishness will have likely passed. Simply everything, even getting undressed at night and then redressing for marital romance in a much larger gown, requires dozens more physical actions than were needed in our century. But perhaps even more to your advantage, the medical community is as of yet very open-minded about certain substances. Birth control pamphlets might be illegal, but you can find cocaine in the finest restorative drafts. Please don't do cocaine. It's a bad idea. I'm not here to judge you, but please don't do cocaine. I mean, if you really think about it, again, please don't do it. Cocaine is nothing more than an exceedingly efficient stimulant. Do not do cocaine. Like a brisk walk on the lake on a crisp morning, but in powder form. Don't do cocaine. Did you know that arsenic and strychnine speed the metabolism? Here in the 19th century, they are also used in weight loss medications, though that will seldom be indicated on the bottle. It's patent medicine. The ingredients are a trademarked secret. So maybe you won't know that tapeworm larvae fit into pills either until you have to pay extra for the deworming medication offered at the end of the regimen. Ideally, you simply have to allow the worms to grow, sometimes up to 30 feet, inside your digestive tract, which they do by eating a portion of your calories and in general mucking up your digestive process. The muckers. One who mucks. Then, once weight loss has been achieved, simply take another pill to kill the worm and allow your body to void it. Throw it up? Oh, lambkin, no. It's much too down low for that. You'll have to check for the beginning of its extrusion when you use the chamber pot. Then remove it yourself, by hand, all 30 feet of it. You'll need to pull very gently. You really don't want it to tear. And we have on page 82 a obesity powder, which is definitely cocaine. Don't do cocaine. And on page 83 we have a really racist ad for tapeworms. Here we have cocaine for obesity and racist ad for tapeworms. On the cutting edge of diet pills are the desiccated pig and cow thyroids that seem to work wonders on obesity, as inducing severe hyperthyroidism, which will later be called Graves' disease, will often do. Again, there is no Food and Drug Administration or any other sort of agency to keep doctors, they probably aren't doctors, but it's unseemly for a lady to pry, from prescribing these products, all of which can honestly be advertised as natural, and some even purely vegetable. For instance, cocaine comes from coca leaves in the, I cannot remotely pronounce this word, Erythroxylaceae? Coca leaves in some plant family. I think that technically counts as a vegetable. Do not do cocaine. So however tempting they might be, I cannot recommend you take any of this century's miraculous fat reduction medications. Weight loss regimens are just as futile here as they were in the 21st century. The potion might work, but it won't last once you stop, and heaven knows what damage it's doing to your body while it's in there. Also, it's made from the same stuff as street crack and rat poison. Dignity, chérie. Remember your dignity. Luther, do you have dignity? Get your foot. Got your foot. He has none. All right, page 84, heading. Your fat, sluggish womb needs loving. So let us entertain other options. Does Orson Squire Fowler, expert ranter, there's a title for you, have any advice? Indeed he does. Oh, face full of pollen, face full of pollen, face full of pollen. Look at the book cover. Look at the book cover, please. Whew. Oh, that's unpleasant. That's really unpleasant. Fat, says Mr. Fowler, is incompatible with femininity. In fact, it destroys feminine attributes from the inside out. It takes the magnetism right out of your breasts. Nature turns into fat what surplus albumin she cannot get rid of otherwise, stows it away first right around the womb, thus filling out the belly, then between hips and ribs, making the waist large and back broad, then sends it to the breasts, one of its natural outlets, making them fat, soft, cold, unmagnetic, high, and blubbery. I'm really not sure how many of those adjectives can happen at the same time, physically. Yet this makes her red-faced. Critics saying, fat and red-faced too, yet always grunting. Humph! Only making a fuss. I didn't get a harumph out of that guy. Whereas fat, red face, and all are due to her spare menses, and this to her sluggish womb. I would say as a joke these guys were on crack, but they probably were. Mr. Fowler has previously informed us that a woman's stubbornly retained menstrual blood would eventually seek escape through her lungs, leading to consumption. Now we see that if a woman foolishly retains her menstrual blood by squeezing her woman organs with fat, the blood will ascend to her face, which explains the flushing faces of heavy persons. Ugh, it's just too horrible to contemplate. No wonder a woman becomes, as they so often do in Mr. Fowler's philosophy, hateful and spiteful to men, in order to drive them from her because she is unfit to bear. My mission in life. Fear not. Good Fowler does not leave us alone in such desperate straits. He has a long list of advice for the fat woman wishing to reduce. Eat lightly and exercise, which is common enough information. You must also breathe a great deal, because the life process burns fat. I mean, Yeah, just sustaining existence burns some calories. So, right track? Make sure your bowels and bladder are clear, as well as your skin. You may not know this, but perspiration ejects fats right through the pores. Unless you are a tambaqui in the Amazon, no, it does not. You must also promote menstruation. I believe Fowler has instructed us elsewhere in his writings to accomplish this by not being so petulant. But the best thing to do, if you're tubby, is find a man. Remember, nature abhors an empty womb. God, she must really hate me. Block quote. Nurture love if married, and if not, do all you can to get a beau and husband, hopefully at the same time. For womb stoppage causes fat, and action will carry off this fat. Stout girls imperiously demand this marrying prescription. And once you've snagged that man, bear on, which means have children, as long and as often as possible, thus consuming this surplus in the natural way, multiplying life and keeping up normal womb action. Imagine that. So many women have convinced themselves that having children makes it more difficult to maintain a youthful figure, when in fact, the larger the brood, the sleeker the sow. Page 86, heading, Perambulating Umbrella Cases. Sounds like something out of the Haunted Mansion. But what if you left the 21st century in a slight, slender body? Now you're considered scrawny. You can't get a man if you don't look like you've got good birthing hips and ample dugs, ma petite. We have to fatten you up. Doing so requires a regimen even more severe and difficult than that which your pudgy sister must endure. Mrs. Walker recommends the coma victim approach. Block quote. What am I covered in from out of these trees? Block quote. A female desirous of acquiring fullness of figure must never incur fatigue, but indulge in the most complete listlessness and inactivity, not in darkness, but in very faint light, in some sequestered, quiet, cool, and rather humid place, where the air is bland, where no noise is heard, and where she is not liable to be startled or surprised. I mean, that sounds like a pretty ideal Saturday some weekends. Being startled triggers harder breathing and beating of the heart, which we know consume fat. No. And likely causes consumption because most things do. In fact, any severe emotion can delay weight gain. Block quote. She must avoid all anxiety. She must avoid all anxiety and endeavor to feel indifferent to every sensation, reflect as little as possible, and occupy herself with lively and agreeable subjects, shun sitting up, gaming, all strong, afflicting, or turbulent passions, and all excesses, sleep a long time, 10 hours at least, and when not asleep, rest as much as possible listless, in dim light, talk little, and indulge in everything which tends to produce relaxation in the activity of the functions. Eat fattening foods and don't think, feel, talk, or get out of bed? Well, we've all had weekends like that. Who could have imagined they held such medicinal value? Helen Jameson picks up the discussion 60 years after Mrs. Walker with more detailed advice. Personality contributes to body weight. Skinny people, Jameson explains, have more stress. Block quote. Fretters are invariably thin, They simply worry off the flesh faster than nature can create it. Stress can contribute to weight loss or weight gain. Just try to relax. Well, that was before the Choco Taco, box wine, and full seasons of television shows where strong female cops seeking justice and love streamed on demand. If you really want a soldier of love and justice, just watch Sailor Moon, all right? That mighty Dame Anxiety has made her peace with food aversion. So for women who might be strutting their jutting hip bones down catwalks 100 years hence, action must be taken. They must be cured of their terribly unpopular barren womb chic. Jameson agrees that 10 hours of sleep is a must, but it must be healthy sleep in a well-ventilated bedroom on a hard mattress and with no high pillows to make her stoop-shouldered and of ungainly figure. A nap during the day is a good thing if one can afford the time. And her diet? Oh my. Block quote. The diet must be of the most nourishing and should consist mostly of food containing, are you sneezing? Starch and sugar, such as good fresh butter, rich milk, cream, fruits both raw and cooked, macaroni, fish, corn, sweet potatoes, peas, beans, ice creams, dessert, pastries, and nourishing broths. Cereals, poultry, game, chocolate, and sweet grapes are all excellent. Avoid all spiced, acid, or very salty foods. All in all, most of that sounds pretty good. So many rules to remember. Jameson, however, has a final thought about this fat or thin issue, and it is a good one. Therefore, I say this. Don't worry yourself into your grave about too much flesh or lack of it, unless you find yourself taking on the extreme proportions of a skeleton lady or a museum exhibit of unusual plumpness. A thin neck may be a bad thing, but if that thin neck is rebellious and pays absolutely no attention to tonics or massage or other coddling for which it should rightly be grateful, then merely say, "All right, if you insist." There's another large black cat walking this way. That's Luther. There's another black cat over here. I think this may be my neighbor's cat, Onyx. Let's see if he wants to come up and say something. Hey, Onyx. He does not. And turn your attention to other things. What admirer of feminine beauty would not look upon a bright mind, quick, kindly wits, and sweet lovableness as 1,000 times more acceptable than a neck as round and perfect as that of a Venus? I say good show, Helen Jameson. Good show. That has been Chapter 5 of Unmentionable, the Victorian Lady's Guide to Sex, Marriage, and Manners by Therese O'Neill. Guest appearance by Luther, who's still over here passed out. And this has been Anna Reads. If you are interested in hearing me read something, you are welcome to contact me on Instagram at serenity_sweet13 or on Twitter at serenitysweet13, no underscore. If you found my YouTube via Facebook, feel free to contact me on Facebook or just DM me here on YouTube. I'm going back to the rest of my beautiful spring day. Love y'all.